This is a quick and dirty project for an outdoor TV mount. I had some pallet wood left in the driveway from my last project, and I've enjoyed watching TV out by our fire pit. So I gave myself about an hour of time to work on putting together a quick mount just with the pieces I had laying around in the basement. This is built out of some oak boards that were taken off of a pallet, and I'm essentially stacking up 4 layers of the oak boards to make about a 4x4. It's not quite that thick. The key here is to offset the butt joints of each of the layers so they don't all line up and then there's a weak spot. Once I have those cut to length, I got out some wood glue that I had left over from a project and put that between each of the layers. And what I'm going to do is stack up the different layers, clamp it down to my bench, and then use some pallet nails that I pulled out of the pallets to drive it through the boards. You'll see in a minute the pallet nails are a little bit long for this application, so I have to drive them in at an angle to make sure they don't go into the table. Like I said, this is very much a rush job to get a TV mount outdoors until I can build something more permanent. If you already have some scrap 4x4 or something like that lying around, you can skip this step. This part was actually kind of fun. This was a master class in nailing. You've got these bent and used nails, trying to drive them into 4 different layers of oak board that's very hard and has knots everywhere. So it was an adventure to try to get the nails to go in straight. Once I'm done with one side, I flip it over and do the same on the other. And then I take it over to the chop saw and just square up the ends. I also had some Quikrete that I used for a fence post about a year ago, and it's pretty close to hardened. It's still hanging on, but I wondered if I could use that up before it gets fully hardened. So I used a claw hammer and screwdriver to slowly break up the pieces. I really need this just for weight. They don't have to be structurally sound. I'm going to sink that oak 4x4 down into the bucket eventually. Before I do that, I attach the hanger for the TV. This TV mount it was something like $6 or $7 off Amazon. It was the cheapest one I could find because the part I'm attaching there will stay outside. I fully expect it will rust. And the part that attaches to the TV, I'll pull the TV back into the basement when it's not in use. Before I put the post down into the concrete, I decided to put a few more pallet nails sticking out of the bottom, just to give something for the concrete to grab onto. A little bit like rebar. And then I made this setup in the shop where I could clamp it still and level before I started pouring the concrete. Again, the concrete was close to set already, so I had to mix it with water and took quite a lot of work to get it to fully mix up. But once it was to a nice consistency, I could pour it into the bucket here. And both of these buckets are from the Easy Sand that I used in my cobblestone project. Again, everything here was going to be thrown out, and I thought I could get some use out of it until I can build a more permanent setup out in the patio. Once all the concrete was poured, I worked it around with my hand, trying to get it so that any water that got into that bucket would move towards the outside of the bucket as opposed to being up against the board. The next day I pulled the whole setup outside, hung my TV up, and for now I'm just running an extension cord outside when I want to watch TV. In the long run, I'm going to build a big pergola for this whole area, and there'll be a TV mount on that pergola. So this will get me through until I have time to do that when the weather clears up next spring. One other step I did was to drill some drainage holes, just so water doesn't build up against the wood and cause it to rot. And here's a shot of the final setup. The TV just hangs on hooks, I made some nice cabling with tie wraps that come off to the Roku, and the Roku has a small plastic clip you see up there. I 3D printed that so it would attach to the TV. So the whole TV comes outside with all the cabling intact, and just hang it up and plug it in. That's it. Hope that helps someone. Thanks for watching.